back here at Haggerty's Boatyard, standing on the catamaran Tehini 51 Han'Nu'Na. It's a lovely morning after a lot of rain we've had for the last while. This is the gorgeous trawler tied up beside us. It's holding her steady, and she's been up and down on the tides, no problem in the mud here, and it's nice and safe. I'm back to do a few little bits and pieces and continue to work on getting ready to remove different bits and pieces of the boat in order to replace them with some different elements. So we're going to be removing this mast step, removing this pod, and removing the mast step that's in this pod, all to be replaced with different pods. A back area that's going to be primarily decked. We're going to, still in two minds, whether we're going to do a pod, a similar but better designed pod back here, and a sunken area here, and another pod here with a large double bed and half decked at the bow. So we're getting ready to remove this pod, and this is done in 3 elements. So they've got the top cover and 2 bottom areas. So today I'm going to try and disconnect the top area and see if it can move free. I might just use that for the forward pod lid. So I've just discovered something I find quite remarkable. That this, the top of this pod was only held on by 2 bolts. So there was a bolt there, and there's a bolt there, and that's all that was holding it on. So it was literally just the weight of it. Let's see if I can lift this piece up. And this bolt out. The bolt is a little jammed in there. It seems to have something just tighter. The hole is a little tight, but that's it. That's all that's holding this whole thing up. Holding it on was just these 2 pins at the back, and it's friction more or less. And then in between is a bit of rubber. Looks a bit like a seal. I'm going to go underneath in a funny way here, but that black is basically rubber that's in between these 2. So talk about simplicity. I'm not sure how trustworthy that would have been had a rogue wave hit it from behind, which of course would be probably a little bit difficult. But this boat actually traveled to the Canaries and back from Wales. So, and I understand they had a pretty tough time of it, the original builder. So yeah, I don't know if that was part of the issue, or it certainly wasn't an issue because it stayed on, but I'm slightly baffled that that's all that's holding it together, this one part. So especially when I consider how well attached everything else is on the boat. Anyway, there you go. here we go. That's the lid off. And then each of these is independent. The builder originally supposedly built them so that they could actually float. I'm not sure what the idea was there, but I guess almost like some sort of safety device, but it kind of, with all the drain holes in there, I'm not sure how successful that would have been. But anyway, I believe that was the original intent. One of the other guys at the Boatyard where he built this vessel, where he built Han'Nu'Na, Wowie Zowie at the time. That's what he claimed anyway. So this whole part here, the foot, is one section, and then this is another section, and this is another section. So all of that's going to come away. What I've got to do next is remove these two carriage bolts. They're attached to the beams that help carry this deck. So there's a beam there and a beam there that is supported just on this side at the step that is the top of the cabin. And they're held up on this side by being pinched with a nut and bolt there and a nut and bolt there, but it also keeps this guy from lifting up. Now, I've undone it over here. I removed this plank here. I've just put it back in there so I don't make a misstep. And I've taken the nuts out. There's the bolt holes. And what I've discovered is that with very little effort, that whole thing lifts up. So this whole design was basically held up by two bolts there that were really holding up those beams. So in reality, the weight of this has really been holding it in place, for better or for worse. So there you go. I'm ready to lift that up now. I think I might even be able to lift it out by myself. So I'm going to try and do that. See how I get on. So as I explained in the last episode, when I was emptying my batteries out of the benches over there, the original owner had built these boxes totally waterproof, but the second owner put in these handles, the result being that there's a lot of water in here. So the bulk of the weight in this whole unit is actually the water in those. So I think what I'm going to do is drill a hole through that and let the water drain out. So another thing I need to do is take out the rope that is the steering. So what we've got here is the rope going down where the wheel used to be. It goes underneath and comes out here, that green line there, and then it comes up and works off a pulley system off the back that then works to the tillers on either side. So I'm going to now pull those out. Is that in order to get these out, because of that bolt right there going through the mast step, there's a hole drilled out of the bulkhead right here in order for that bolt to come through. It might be that in order to lift these, I need to remove this part of deck. Now, well, it's day 2 since I was just working on getting the pods pulled apart yesterday. Back on a slightly more drizzly day, and I'm going to pump up a little raft that I have. Pretty cool little piece of kit that that works a lot like a supboard, an inflatable supboard, only it's a big rectangle, so you can use it as a impromptu dock. I'm going to pump that up so that I can get underneath the boat and disconnect all the zip ties and any cabling down below there, so that we can pull the pods off today, or at least be prepared to pull them off. After pulling out my dock here, this is an inflatable dock, I couldn't find the correct pump for it, so I gave up and used the rib over there on the right side.
In retrospect, using the rib was the better way to go for this particular job because I'm able to sit on the side of it. With my little inflatable dock, which you'll see in a later episode, I've got to kneel, and actually water can get up on it if you're not careful. So it was a good resolution using the rib. While I was working away, along came this beautiful old trawler, and I had to just show off some of the lovely work that they work with here at Haggerty's. But I'm all over the place in this video because there's so many parts to remove. Here I'm attempting to remove the outboard engine, but I discovered that the nuts holding it on were absolutely frozen. So in a later video, I end up cutting them off. Again, in an effort to share what happens here at Haggerty's, here's one of their old buildings. This building is probably, I don't know, 300 years old, and this is where they do a lot of their boat building. This is a small punt being built by John Haggerty, and they had a larger vessel there. I was panning across a moment ago. There it is, and that's something they're going to be doing some repair work on. But have a look at this old building. The walls are barely standing, and it's quite something. I believe it's an old grain store. And we're looking at some real history here in Ireland. As I walk out the yard, they've got a mill across the way. There's the old castle tower. This used to belong to the O'Driscolls, which were a local clan. And they've got the proper kit here, large band saws. This is where they build their spars. And there's the old grain store. Now I'm going to take us for a walk down to where the catamaran is. These kind of old boatyards were probably very common back in the day, certainly fairly common here in Ireland and England. And it's full of lovely old wooden boats in different levels of repair or disrepair, as most boatyards are. This is the one that we saw come out, and there's Han'Nu'Na, the catamaran.
So I've not managed to remove the pods, but they're entirely ready for it. I've run out of time, so I'll be back here in about 10 days and hope to get those up and out of here. The yard has said that they might come in and just move them with a manhandle them out of here. So that's a possibility, but I've got all the cables removed, all the connections, and ready to go.